everyone, I'm going to walk through how to create a task in Elicit. So I first go to the Create Tasks page and I click New Task. There are three types of tasks you can create: generation, search, and composite. So I'm going to walk through each of these. So let's start with the generation task. The first thing you want to do is give it a name. So this one I'm going to walk through generate sub-questions. Then you want to give it a description and an input description. And this is what all other users who are using your task see when they're selecting your task. So here it is break down a vague question into sub-questions, and you want to input a vague question. So just to show you what this is, if we go here, this is the description. So this is the name of your task. This is the description that people see in the dropdown. And when you click it, this is the input description, so they know what to enter in. And then we come down to the section where we tell GPT-3 what we want it to actually do. So first you have to tell it the input that it's getting. So this is similar to this section, except this section is for users and this section is for GPT-3. So we tell it, it gets a question, and then it gives back sub-questions. And then we describe to GPT-3 what we want it to do. So for each question below, I'll list sub-questions. Great. And then we need to tell GPT-3 some ideal examples so that it can learn what you actually are looking for. So you can add any number of examples. We find that at around 3 to 5, the task starts actually working. And then you can add as many as 20 plus examples. So here we want to put in some ideal examples. So for example, what is the future of the US robotics industry? And some sub-questions are, how many robotics manufacturers are there? And what is the price of consumer robots? Okay. And we can add another one. What will and some questions are cool. So now we've added a few examples. So GPT-3 sort of gets what we want it to do. So now we want to test if our task is actually performing well in the ways that we care about. So we can add a test example. So here we can input, maybe I care about this performing well on what is the future of AI. You can ignore this for now, I'll come back to it. So we just click save, and then GPT-3 generates some sub-questions for this question. So how many countries is China's AI strategy targeting? So it looks like it's overfitting a bit to the fact that I use China in my training example, because I only have 2 examples. Otherwise, these are looking pretty reasonable. But if I want them to improve, I can go back and add another example. So, what will the US immigration system become more strict? This depends on requirements for well, I guess who will be elected president? And then once you've added another training example, you can come back down, click refresh, and then again, see how this is updated based on your training examples. And you can keep adding training examples until your test example is performing as well as you want it to. There's one other thing that you can do. You can see this perplexities here. So the idea of this is that you can actually get a metric for how well your task is performing. So if we click edit, there's a space here to add what your ideal answers are for this question. So I might say, how many AI research papers are being published? How much funding is going into AI? And now if you click save, GPT-3 is going to both generate its own examples, but it's also going to tell us what probability it puts on the examples that we said. And we want it to put really high probability on our examples. that shows that it's, it's performing similar to how we want it to. So we click save, and you can see a metric here. So this metric is actually perplexity, and basically we want this to go down. So as this gets lower and lower, our task is performing better. So you can keep adding new training examples, refreshing, and seeing if the perplexity has changed. So that's generation. Now let's look at search. So we can create another task here, and then again, describe it. So I'm going to create a search task for search less wrong articles. So again, I describe it for the users, searches over less wrong article titles. And then you should input a keyword or a question, or a topic rather. And then we select search. So now we get a space to enter in a list of text that we want GPT-3 to search over. So I have an example already here that I'm going to use. So let me just copy this in. So basically what's happening here is that I have a field title. So title, and then the actual title of the article, link, and then the link to the article. And each of these is one result. And I want GPT-3 to search over these results and rank them by how similar they are to my query. The next input is, it says separator. And this is basically how do we know what differentiates a result? So in this case, it's 2 line breaks. So we can put 2 line breaks, and we can see here that it's returning us the correct result. So each of these, title and then link, is one result. Search fields is what you want GPT-3 to actually search over. So in this case, we want it to search over title, but we don't want it to search over link because it's not a real word. It doesn't really make sense. But we do want it to display both title and link since we want to be able to click the link easily. So then again, we can add a test example to see how this is doing. So if I search cheerful, and then I click save, hopefully this should give me your cheerful price at the top, which it does. And you can see how it's formatted with the title and then the link for each of the results. Great. So I'll quickly cover composite tasks. Basically, a composite task lets you compose 2 other tasks together and then return results from both of those tasks. So if I put together generate sub-questions and search factors, it's now going to give me results from both of these individual tasks. So I can add a test example like what is the future of AI? Click save. And then you can see it gives me some generate results from generate sub-questions and some results from search factors. So if you make 2 similar tasks, you can compose them together and just run them simultaneously. Cool. So the last thing I want to point out is how to share and do things once you've created the task. So here you can share with the public, and we curate public tasks. So you should feel absolutely free to share your tasks with the public, but be aware that if it isn't quite yet good enough, we may take it down. You can also share with teams if you are in a team. So here I'm not in any team, so I can just leave this blank. But if I click public, this will now show up in the public tasks for everyone. I can also fork a task. So what this does is it just creates another version of the task. So I don't have to recopy all of my training examples. Great, that's it. I hope that helped explain how to create tasks, and you can feel free to reach out to us if you have any more questions.